Good to see you all this morning. My opening statement by the board chair. It is the board practice that prior to the commencement of our board meeting being called, the meeting to order, a prayer be given. The board member who delivered the prayer may refer to his or her own religious faith, just as you might refer to yours when you offer a prayer. We wish to emphasize, however, that the members of all religious faiths are welcome not only in these meetings, but in our community as well. The participant of this citizen in the process of a self-government will help our board of supervisors to better serve the good people of Mecklenburg County. At that time, I will call on Mr. Brinkley for our opening prayer.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't know if a lot of you heard, but Judy Sheffield lost her mother yesterday and all. So let's start this meeting with a moment of silent prayer, please. Heavenly Father, we come to you today asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this meeting. Help us engage in a meaningful discussion. Allow us to grow closer as a group and as a community. Fill us with your grace, Lord God, as we make decisions that might affect this county, and to continue to remind us that all we do here today, all that we accomplish, is for the pursuit of truth and for the greater glory of you and for the service of humanity. We ask all these things in your name, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Mr. Brinkley. We will call the Mecklenburg County Board of Supervisors meeting to order. I will encourage each person to mute your phone or cut it off or turn the volume down so that will not be disturbing. If you have not signed up, would like to speak, you can sign at the door. You will have 3 minutes for our public comment. Our chairman, he's out today. He's well, he's just on vacation. Mr. Brinkley did mention that our assistant county administrator, Judy Sheffield, lost her mother, so our condolences and concern for Judy Sheffield family. I wish all a happy Valentine on this special day. All the guys, I know you have bought flowers and candies, and all the ladies said happy Valentine. At this point, we will stand for pledge of allegiance to the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, the approval of the January 10th, 2020 agenda that was sent out to each other. I will entertain a motion.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
There's been a motion to approve the agenda of January 10, 2020. All those in favor of that motion, let it be known by voting sign of aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? I have it. Motion carried unanimously. Next is the agenda. Are there any addition? Mr. Carter, do you have any addition?
No, sir, not at this time.
Board member, any addition to our agenda? Not, I'll entertain a motion concerning approval of the agenda.
The chair, I so move.
The motion that we approve the agenda before us. All those in favor of that motion, let me know by voting sign of aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? I've had a motion carried unanimously. Next is a resolution of honoring Mrs. Bell. I will come forth and Mr. Henry Bell come forth and receive his plaque. This is Mrs. Bell's son, Henry Bell. And I will read. Every meeting of the Board of Supervisors held in and for the county of Mecklenburg on February 14, 2022. The Board of Supervisors met in the Gould Bank Building The board and unanimously voted to adopt the following resolution. Whereas the Mecklenburg County Board of Supervisors does hereby wish to honor Ms. Virginia Estelle Philibert on her 108th birthday, and whereas Ms. Bell and her late husband Henry had 4 children, and she lived her entire adult life on their farm where they grew tobacco and their family, and whereas Ms. Bell was known for her care that she gave for her family and all those who in the North View community, with which she happily shared her daughter, and whereas Ms. Bell also was known for her timeliness for her home, both inside and out, her yard and her beautiful flower, and whereas Ms. Bell, a long life member of the Northview Baptist Church, where she remained an active member until moving to the Pine View, where she continued to remain active in her religious and recreation activity. Then whereas it resolved that the Mecklenburg County Board of Supervisors that hereby wish to honor Ms. Virginia S. Philibert on her long life and celebration of her 108th birthday. Congratulations on behalf of Mecklenburg County Board of Supervisors.
I can't think so.
To have a mother that long.
One of the few in the country. It is.
Long life in the genes.
Yes, sir.
It's an honor to have a living mother.
Amen.
I'd like to have the public hearing on the burning ban ordinance. I will yield the floor to Mr. Carter concerning that ban.
Taylor, speak forward. We have a current ordinance, based upon the burn ban we put in back in December.
Yes.
In talking with other localities, he felt like we needed to fine tune it a little bit. So if you want to go over any of the changes with regards to it, sir.
We just needed to add in there a couple of places where, the number one place was that we needed to declare an emergency during that time, the way the law is written for in the state to allows us to do this. So that's the biggest change in there.
I think several other localities are probably going to piggyback off of this based upon what we did, but this basically just fine tuning what we already had in place. And I think this is something that the fire chiefs really want, so that we don't have to wait for a board meeting, et cetera, in order to do that.
Right.
It'll be able to happen very quickly with the chairman of the board, head of the Fire Chiefs Association, and John going ahead and declaring the emergency.
Okay, this is something we need to act on
Yes.
today, okay? Okay, is there any other comments or questions concerning the burn ordinance? If not, before the motion, could I have a motion concerning the burn ordinance?
Yes. We advertised the public hearing. But you got to hold it. Yes, so we have to have the public
Oh,
hearing.
okay,
We're gonna say a hearing.
okay,
Gotta have hearing first.
okay. Anyone from the public would like to speak concerning the burn ordinance? And Mr. Taylor just finished talking about it. Okay. No comment from the public, and to the board. Any board comment concerning this ordinance? Okay, here none, then could I have a motion concerning the burn ordinance we just finished discussing?
Motion we adopt the burn ban ordinance as presented.
Okay, being motion that we adopt the ban ordinance as presented. All those in favor of the motion, let me know my voting sign of aye. Aye. Those opposed, ayes have it, motion carried unanimously. So to carry out the burn ordinance. Next is condemnation of property on Old Cox Road. We yield the floor to Mr. Carter.
We'll pass it on to Mr. Slayton, who's handling this matter.
There's a project underway in the county for the expansion and improvement of Old Cox Road, Highway 660. Property acquisitions are needed, obviously, to widen roads. The county has hired consulting engineers, Timmons, and they worked hard and they've done a very good job voluntarily acquiring all the property interests it can be. But inevitably, there are some that can't be. Parties unknown, their whereabouts unknown, and so forth. In order for this project to go forward, the county's got to acquire all of the property interest, and the county has the power to acquire property by condemnations, which is sometimes viewed in a poor light. But in the light of road construction, it's very fortunate counties have the right of condemnation, or there wouldn't be any roads. You've got to acquire all the property rights. The property rights being acquired are fee simple, and these are very small portions of people's land needed to improve the road, drainage easements, temporary construction easements, and utility easements. For some time now, the Timmons Group has been trying to locate people and negotiate them, but they've come down to 3 parcels for which they cannot reach voluntary agreement. And those 3 parcels are, see if I can find this quickly. Let's see, there actually are 3 parcels, but only 2 sets of owners. Robert Boring and Colette Boring own 2 of the parcels, and Tyrone White and Monet White own the other. It would be appropriate now to conduct a public hearing to see if the public has any comments for or against this condemnation. At the end of the public hearing, there's a resolution that's in your board package. Staff would ask that you adopt that. Without adoption, the road project can't go forward.
Do anyone speak on behalf of the family concerning the condemnation? If not, does anyone from the public would like to speak concerning the condemnation of the property on Old Cox Road? Hearing none. On the board, you have any comments or questions concerning the condemnation of their property? And our lawyer presenting. Hearing none, then could we have a motion concerning the condemnation of the property on Old Cox Road?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I put a motion to adopt the condemnation of property on Old Cox Road.
Okay, the motion that we, for the condemnation of Old Cox Road. All those in favor of that motion, let it be known by voting sign of aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Ayes have it, so that will pass and go forth concerning the condemnation. Next, a report of the FY 21 audit. Robin Jones, who's here represented here.
Public comment.
I'm sorry. I thought they did public comment.
No, the 3 minutes public comment.
Public comment, no one has signed up, Mr. Spain, at this time.
Okay, yeah, okay.
I did go back and just check it.
Okay, now for the public comment. Okay, so hearing none, then we move on to Robin Jones. Thank you for bringing to my attention.
Yes, sir.
Then move a little early, usually further down.
I'd like to say happy Valentine's Day to everyone too.
Thank you.
Thank you for giving us the opportunity to do the audit for the county for the year ended June 30th, 2021. The audit went well. I want to thank the personnel and all the management here for making the audit go very smoothly. They're all very cooperative and a great job getting the information to us so that we can do the audit. The first thing I want to do, I gave a small handout. Now, this is the entire audit, and I gave y'all a handout of this audit with just some highlights, and that's all we're going to touch on today. So the first thing I want to do is go to the very last page of the audit, of the handout I gave you, is page 144. And what it is a recap of the audit. It's called the Schedule of Findings and Question Cost. And I just want to make a note that the opinion on the audit was unmodified, which means it was a clean opinion. We found no material weaknesses, no significant deficiencies in the audit, and y'all qualify as a low-risk auditee because you've had a clean opinion for the last 3 years, and so we reported no matters to any of the state agencies or the federal agencies. So that's good. So going back to the very first page that I handed out in the audit, it's our independent auditor's report. And I just want to note a few things that I'm supposed to bring to y'all's attention, that management is responsible for these financial statements. They're not our financial statements, we audit these financial statements. So ultimately, it's management's responsibility. Our responsibility is to do the audit on a material basis. We don't look at every transaction. We have a materiality limit that we go by to do the audit. And the final result is that our opinion states that we present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the county in accordance with all the accounting and auditing standards that we're required to follow. But it was a clean opinion and with no findings. So that's the auditor's report. The first exhibit I want to mention is Exhibit 1 on page 9, your cash position. At the end of the year was $81 million, which is a strong cash position. Your total assets were $259 million. Total debt was around $125 million. And of course, that includes a lot of the new school construction and stuff. Your total net position for the county was $123 million. The school board actually had a negative net position, but again, a lot of that, as we've gone over in the past, has to do with the VRS pension liability that the school has to report. And then the IDA is a component unit of the county. It had a net position of $17 million at the end of the year. So that's Exhibit 1. Exhibit 2 is the next page. That is a balance sheet. Now, this balance sheet is on a modified accrual basis. The one we went over was a full accrual basis. Again, it's reporting the cash of $81 million, and on a modified cash basis, your total fund balance is $83 million. That's just your governmental funds. I do want to note, I've highlighted that there's a new fund this year. We had to create a new fund. The county created a new fund called the CARES Act. So that was not in last year's audit. So you can see that that's a new fund that was added in the financial statements. And again, Exhibit 4, the next page, 13. Again, you see the CARES Act fund was new. Your total revenues for the governmental funds was $118 million. Your total expenditures, $109, giving the county a net change in fund balance of around $9 million this year. Next page that I wanted to note was Exhibit 5. There was a new, what we call GASB statement. That stands for Governmental Accounting Standards Board. It's called GASB 84. We had to change some of the terminology on this Exhibit 5, and it's called the Statement of Fiduciary Assets and Liabilities. So we added a column called Custodial Funds. This used to be called the agency funds in the old statements if you were to compare the two. And and we had to split these out between the OPEB funds for your health insurance, retiree health insurance is the OPEB funds, and the custodial funds are listed in the back of the audit, and it's things like special welfare and that kind of thing that really is not the county's money. They're your custodial funds. So that's a new statement, and as well as Exhibit 6, page 16. This is also a new statement that was not in last year's audit. And this was required again by governmental accounting standards, so we had to add those this year. And then just some other statements in there. If you want to see the transfers between the funds within the county, you look on page 32 and 33. It just shows transfers from the general fund to other funds and between the school board and the IDA component units. It shows those transfers. Your capital assets are on page 34. And you can follow the additions to, buildings and improvements and construction on the new high school, and any new vehicles and equipment were added. That's the summary of that type of activity. Page 36, 10 is your long-term debt schedule. That's your payout over the next, until 2051 of all your debt that you have. And the school debt is included in this debt schedule. It's not included in the school board. That's a Auditor of Public Accounts in Richmond requires us, until the school is paid off, all the activity is reported in the county, because the county is ultimately responsible for the debt. So all the debt for the high school is really in the county side when it comes to the financial statement. Page 37 is again more debt schedules, just by detail. 37 and 38 is all your debt. The school has some leases, and the school leases for buses and computer equipment is reported under the school. And they're listed in here as well for that type of thing. You've got the IDA debt. The IDA has two debt items outstanding. They're listed for $1.2 million. That's what the IDA still owes. On page 41, we're required to compute what's called the legal debt margin in the state of Virginia. It's based on your real estate assessment, and you can see that your legal debt margin at the end of June 30, 2021 was $346 million. So you're still well within your debt limit. Then on pages 85 and 6, it shows different fund balances within the county that have either been committed by the board, y'all have decided to commit, or either assign special monies to different projects, and you can see all of them listed, where they're either restricted or assigned or committed. The restricted ones are pretty much restricted by local, other governments. The assigned are the ones that the board has kind of assigned to things. Pages 88, schedule, Exhibit 7 is your budgetary comparison schedule. Yeah, I kind of highlighted the items. Personal property taxes were, you collected more than you budgeted. Local sales and use taxes were higher than your budgeted figure, and building permits were higher than what the county had originally budgeted. So that's good that you got more than you budgeted for. And your expenditures on page 92 were less than what you budgeted. So you're in your budget limit for expenditure. That's the next schedule. Again, Schedule 5, page 124. This is that new schedule of that was GASB 84 I mentioned earlier. That this is a new statement, and these numbers roll up to the front that we just went over. But statement of changes in fiduciary net position is new. And page 125. This is related to the school board, and this is also has to do with that fiduciary new statement that came out. We had to add the school activity funds into the school board portion of the audit. These are funds that are held by each school to handle class trips, beta club. What it says it is. It's the class, the students' activities. And each of the schools maintains their own little set of funds to handle that kind of thing. These weren't in the audit last year. They were added this year. And that was, again, accounting standards said we had to start adding those. We do a separate audit on those. They're all audited. Our firm actually audits them separately, and they've always been audited, but just never included in the whole county's audit. And that's pretty it. We do two more letters. We do a letter based on government auditing standards that says that we have found no material weaknesses. And we also do an opinion letter on the federal money that the county receives. That's on page 137. Compliance required by uniform guidance. This is strictly a report required by the federal government. And again, it says we found no problems with that. And on page 141, this is a listing of all your federal money that you did receive, either through the state of Virginia or straight from the federal government. We're required to report pass-through money that's coming from Virginia. So this lists all your federal money. You received $15 million in federal funds last year. And of course, the largest was the coronavirus relief funds of $7 million. So that's it. I'll be glad to take any questions. Good report.
And a comment or question from the board? Got to give you a break because Mr. Barber not here today to scrutinize you, but be aware next year.
Yeah, he could do it.
And thank you for going to the back page first. I said, read the book, go to the back page first. So went to the back page, know the
I
results
don't know why
of
they
it.
don't put that one first, but anyway, it's the very last page in the audit.
Yeah, I want to thank our staff from Commissioner Revenue and the Treasurer for doing, again, a wonderful job concerning the audit with the numbers, the money. That's very, very important.
Especially with 3 years, getting a 3-year clean
Yes,
bill
yeah.
of health or whatever, that we
Yeah. that's
reached that
good.
status.
Yeah.
That's very good to hear.
It says a lot for our staff. Because the citizens need to know about our money. Again, thank you.
Well, thank y'all.
Thank you, Robert. Next is, then you yield back to public comments. Yield the floor to Mr. Carter.
I believe Madeline's House is here to make a short presentation to you all. They didn't realize they need to sign up and let us know beforehand. But they'd like to make a short presentation under public comment, if that's all right.
Good morning. Thank you so much for making this very for us. My name is Christian Cox, and I am new with Madeline's House. We're the Southside Center for Violence Prevention, the agency of Madeline's House, which is our domestic violence program, and SAVE, which is our sexual assault victim empowerment program. So first, I'd like to thank you guys for letting me come and talk to y'all. I'm new, like I said, so I'm just trying to learn the ropes. But we would also like to thank you guys for your continued support. We'd like to share our efforts in 2021. We continue to provide free and confidential services to include counseling, crisis intervention, advocacy and accompaniment, education, resources, and referrals. And we shelter victims of dating and domestic violence and sexual violence, such as sexual harassment, sexual assault, and sex trafficking. We continue to provide these services to victims who reside in Mecklenburg County. In 2021, we served 5 individuals from Mecklenburg County, providing a total of 260 shelter stays. As you may remember, in 2020, we expanded our therapy program by having all of our clinical staff trained specifically in play therapy for children. And we expanded our food donation program to community clients and established ourselves as a facility sheltering animals and families together. And we continued those programs in 2021. So we're actually only one of 3 shelters in the state of Virginia that houses animals. Similar to last year, we had to make accommodations for COVID-19. This included limiting our shelter beds to 7 rooms from 24 beds previously. And this ensures that unrelated individuals are not sharing space. And we provide extensions to stays to allow for the increased difficulty clients experience finding new housing, engaging some counseling clients in telehealth depending on their preference, and temporarily ceasing support groups. While we continue to offer the same advocacy and accompaniment and outreach services, we found there were times when our accompaniment was limited by other facilities or due to the COVID restrictions. And in this case, we provided accompaniment to office parking lots, and festivals, fairs, and events were canceled through our county, so our outreach programs kind of dwindled a little bit. As we move into 2022, we look forward to hopefully being able to resume services as normal. Additionally, we have worked this past year to obtain a second shelter location that focuses on providing services to male victims of domestic and sexual violence. While we've always served men, we were limited in how we could provide the services. For example, we would have to place them in hotels, and this limits our case management. And then we also don't have as many options for like giving them food and stuff like that we would normally house in the shelters. And so now we're able to offer that same service and level of care for our male victims as well. So, any questions for me?
Thank you.
Of course. Yes, sir. Thank you guys so much for this.
Thank you very much. So sexual violence is important. And thank you for the update. Okay. Next, we have the VATI grant update. Mr. Lipton, we're looking for some good information. Some more good information. A good update.
Yes, sir. Mr. Spain,
Okay.
members of the board, good to be with you this morning. I'm gonna get tied in here. Technology is a wonderful thing, and just have to get it all connected, right? Alrighty, we'll get plugged into. Again, it's certainly good to be with you this morning. We're especially appreciative of Mecklenburg County's Board of Supervisors and the county and their support and your administrative support of Empower. We're the first organization to support us for a grant through the Tobacco Commission, and that provided us a $1.6 million backbone matching grant that we were able to build out the foundational backbone that we needed, and has been completed since I have last updated you guys. So it's passing across 6 Southside Virginia counties, and we'll show you a picture of that in just a second. And it is passing by 7,700 homes and businesses across that area. So thank you guys for that support. And all right, so we'll give you an update on the Vadi broadband coverage map and for Mecklenburg County specifically. So, we are navigating a path to success, and Empower is doing just that as we speak. So let's talk about Empower's foundational objectives, especially as a part of this Vadi application. We wanted to demonstrate and have our experience and qualifications. We wanted to deliver our ability and skills to provide 100 megabits per second coverage plan to all of the area in Southside Virginia. Of course, if you guys will remember, the plan was a combination submittal through the SPDC. So this Vadi award that we have received at the end of December covers Mecklenburg County, Halifax, the southern portion of Brunswick, and the southern portion of Charlotte County. They joined in with us to expand that coverage area. So it does truly cover a lot of Southside Virginia. So we demonstrate a lot of partnerships. Just like with you guys, there are other entities that we partner with to make sure that this project goes through, it's gone through, and it provides what we need. We wanted to demonstrate our ability to meet timeframes and project commitments. We've done that. We've also wanted to talk to you, and we shared with those folks at the state that we had the skills, we had the abilities, and ultimately, we were successful in that Vadi award. That award came out, $154 million project, $69 million came back in a matching grant. So we were successful there. We're appreciative for your support, and we look forward to moving forward, and we'll share with you a little bit. This is a picture of a poster a few years ago, back in the 40s, and it went electricity for them, the REA way. For those of you who've been around for a little while, you know who REA is, and I'm sure others of you do as well. Area coverage, electricity for all when neighbors cooperate. We find ourselves in a similar situation today. And today, it's this group of children. And we need broadband for them. And we're going to do that the Empower way. So Mecklenburg Electric Cooperative's parent is Empower's parent company, of course. We were formed in 1938. We've been here for 80 years. Currently, we operate $211 million in utility plant, and it's all here in Southside. That includes 34,000 premises, services, electric services of those premises already, 4,500 miles of electrical line. There are 208 miles of fiber backbone that cross those 6 counties, 253 miles of backhaul and drops going to those different houses. And again, that's in parts of 7 counties now. In addition to that, we also have 2,595 accounts that we provide telephone to. That we have that many telephone subscribers that we now provide. We have 2,017 DSL subscribers. And to date, we have 1,714 fiber-fed accounts. So fiber going to those folks' home, and we're continuing to grow that as we go. So we are successful in that venture, and it's expanding. And the important part is we already have that foundation to build out this universal service plan that Vadi had sought. So we already have that foundation. You know, we're already ahead of the game. And today we're already serving your residents. And right now there are 841 accounts who have fiber to their home, fiber to the premises. So that has grown each month as we continue to expand that. Now, and it's important to remember that those margins, all of the, if they're profits, the things, the money, the funding that's left over, guess what? It all stays here. It all stays in Mecklenburg County. It stays in Southside Virginia. It doesn't go across the state line. It doesn't go to support some distant communities. Now, let's talk a little bit more about who MEC is, who Empower is. You know, we've done this before. And an important part of who Empower is we have the ability, we have the skill set, the proven financial skill set to build and operate a capital-intensive business in a lightly populated area. And you guys know what that means because you do it with the county's funding every day, every month. So we do the same thing. It takes a special skill set to do that. We have it. You know, we're not about the profit. We're about delivering service, and we continue to do that. Now, additionally, the cooperative's members, our owners, they have a vested interest because as they subscribe and support Empower, it also supports the success of the overall organization. You know, our collective team has hundreds of years of experience. So both in electricity and even in telecommunications. In the 1950s, MEC started the telephone cooperative. In 2019, the member owners of that cooperative trusted this team, Empower's team, enough to combine their assets and join in with that. So today, we have 125 employees with skills as technicians, engineers, network specialists, IT personnel, and construction project managers. Now, one of the things that we'll do, you think about $154 million, that is a tremendous project. So we'll use outside resources to help expedite that. So we'll have an owner's engineer. We'll have contract crews that we use as tools in that effort to build that out. But our local management will be the team that ensures that quality of the work is there and that we get the biggest bang for the buck. All right. Now, in the next week, I expect that we'll announce the selection of an owner's engineer. Now, that owner's engineer will actually perform as a program administrator. They'll work with us, that will help lay out the guidelines, you know, where we want to go, how we want to do it. The first step we'll work with those folks to identify 30 plus zones across the whole area that we'll work with in this application. Then the next step will be to select contractors to go out and build. We'll use contractors to help us build in each of those zones. Now, one of the things that's important to remember, you know, we talked about 4 counties that we'll be working in. We'll be working in each of those counties simultaneously. So we'll work with the owner's engineer to lay out the plan. Their whole purpose will be to keep us on track and make sure we're meeting all of our targets. But one of the things that's important to remember, this is more than just a construction project. There's a long-term system support that has to be built in there. So, you know, you think about that, the operation and the maintenance, that's what our team has done for years. we're vested in this. We own bucket trucks. We own line trucks. We own track machines and trenchers. We own a boring machine. We own cable pullers and tensioners. Our technicians, they utilize fiber splice trailers, and they know how to use these high-tech fusion splicers. We can put fiber on a pole, or we can drop it in the ground. We own the equipment to do it, and we have the personnel certified to operate it. Now, again, we'll manage all of this in-house, but we will utilize some help with contractors to make this program move and go ahead quickly and smoothly. Now, one of the things to remember is Empower has an office within 45 minutes of all of the personnel or all of the people that we'll be serving and all those communities we'll be serving. So we hope you'll agree, and we think you will. There's no better representation. Remember, Empower has a local board. You folks probably know most of our board members, so we're ready to go. Now, let's talk about our experience in other grants. Of course, as we mentioned earlier, a $2.6 million grant. That was actually a matching grant. That's completed, 135 miles of fiber. We had another grant, of course, that crossed Mecklenburg and Greensville, Brunswick, Pennsylvania, Halifax, Charlotte. So we covered those areas. We've gotten some more Tobacco Commission funding through Pennsylvania County, a portion there. Didn't stop, though, just at the state level. From there, we went to the FCC, and we received funding through the Connect America Fund. We received funding through the most recent funding opportunity, which was the Rural Digital Opportunity Fund. And we received funding for Brunswick, Halifax, Mecklenburg, Greensville, and Pennsylvania counties. We've also utilized USDA's Reconnect program. So we've received funding there for Brunswick County primarily and Halifax. But it all goes to build that system that we need to interconnect and to tie across Southside Virginia. We've also done Vadi before. We did Halifax worked with us, Halifax County. We did a grant just 2 years ago for Halifax and Mecklenburg prior to this $69 million award. So we've had previous history doing that. And the last, of course, is CARES funding. We worked with Brunswick, Halifax, and of course Mecklenburg, Charlotte, and Greensville to do some big CARES projects. And those are underway. We're serving people, continue to serve those. It's interesting. One of the things that we find is if we want to hook up an area, all you have to do is hook up two neighbors. And they begin to talk about, hey, this is what I can do with this. You wouldn't believe what it lets us do. And it just begins to snowball. Folks talk to each other. That is our biggest asset. Now, we can talk about all of those grants, and this is what it's built. So when you look at that, you can see that we have just a number of projects that we've done. You can see there's an orange and white hatched fiber that goes across the entire network. That is the Tobacco Commission grant. When you get to, of course, Mecklenburg County, you see the green fiber into the southeastern portion. That is a part of the old BIT ILEC area that we acquired those assets. So you can see the fiber that's there. We're building in those locations. You can see in the background some orange, I guess you'd say an orange CARES area that's there. There's a couple of those that are on there as well. You can see there's fiber, but each of those locations represents areas where we're working within the county. So you can see that has blanketed. Now, through Vadi and through the other projects that we're working on, fiber is available, particularly in the Vadi. It's available to 9,000 people. It will pass right at 9,000 homes. So that's what we're getting. Plus, right now, across the entire system there that you see from one end to the other, we're passing within 1,000 feet of 7,700 premises. So you can see we are moving, we're building, we're getting close to homes so they actually have the opportunity for high-speed internet. Well, let's talk about what we can provide with this. We can provide 100 megabits per second. So, and that's just the start for the fiber facilities that we're offering. Now, this standard offering is a 50 megabits per second package. Now, typically with a standard high definition package or TV that you might be trying to watch, each one takes about 10 megabits per second. So we have tried it, hooking up 5 different TVs, streaming 5 different things, and on a 50 megabit base package, we're able to run those. And we did it for a whole day. I think we had one of those buffer one time. So if you guys are aware, streaming video is the most demanding thing that you can put on a network. So to be able to, on the base package, to be able to stream 5 TVs, that is a success. Now, that's at the low level. We're talking about providing to every home at least 100 megabits per second. So this is giving folks what they need. Now, if you look at this sketch, you can see we start off at the central office, and it's called, forgive me for acronyms, it's called GPON, which stands for Gigabit Passive Optical Network. So that's the GPON that you see there. So there's an optical line terminal that is in the central office. It goes down the fiber line. Now we have fibers that are 144 count, 96, 48, and 12. When we put those fibers out based on how big the network or the community really is. Each fiber can serve 32, actually it can serve more than that, but we limit it to 32 so that each can have enough speed to get there. So we separate that through a splitter, and it goes to each of those houses. So you see the splitter, the triangle in the middle there, and then going to each of the homes. And it can serve, the light will go 20 kilometers is what we're working to provide. Now, it will go further than that, but that's typically what we are working to provide. Now, one of the things that's interesting is, this is a key point. That fiber that's there, well, we think, well, can it grow anymore? Yes. Today, we can go pull equipment off the shelf. Our electronics provider already has hardware on the shelf ready to go that will provide 10 gigabits per second to an individual account. So right now, the max is 1 gigabit per second, but adding hardware, we can go to 10 gigabits per second. So think about the growth that gives us going forward. You can actually take that same equipment, put it on the same fiber that we're operating today, and operate side by side those two systems. So it is future-proof. It gives you what you need. Now, let's talk about our partners that we've worked with. Of course, Mecklenburg Electric Cooperative. We've worked with Southside Electric Cooperative. There are portions of Southside Virginia that are served by Southside Electric, and we have pole attachments agreement already executed with them so we can be on their poles and their facilities. We're working with Dominion Energy. They actually will build portions of their area within this project area, and they'll build the backbone. We'll tag to the backbone and build to unserved folks in their area that are part of this grant. So we have that agreement. We have a fiber trading agreement with Mid-Atlantic Broadband. So there are places where they want fiber. There are places that we have fiber. We trade to save money, to utilize the best that we can of existing facilities. We work with the Virginia, Maryland, Delaware Association of Broadband Cooperatives. So these are cooperatives across our 3 states who are building fiber, building networks to their members. So when we talk together, and you guys know how this works, we talk to somebody else that's doing it to say, hey, have y'all tried this yet? So we're able to share best practices to make sure we're doing the best we can. We've worked with Vadi before. We've worked with the Department of Housing and Community Development. We've worked with the Virginia Department of Transportation. Guess what? You guys know they have easements. We use those easements. We need to get through those areas. Works out is a tremendous speed advantage there. We've worked with the Tobacco Commission. We've worked with USDA through the Rural Utility Services. We can acquire those federal monies. We've worked with those folks. Now, financing, got to have it. We work with the Cooperative Finance Corporation. They are a huge entity providing funds for cooperative efforts. We're working with them. CoBank, another large cooperative financer. We have those relationships. We have those funds available with them. Now, we've worked with Halifax County, of course, through Vadi. We've worked with Brunswick County through CARES. We've worked with Mecklenburg County through the Tobacco Commission, through CARES, and through Vadi. So you guys, we've done a number of projects in each of these areas. So we're thankful for that and we appreciate that. And it is paying off, as we said, for our citizens. There are 842 folks who have fiber service to the home. So big deal. It was certainly a tremendous asset for us to join along with the Southside Planning District Commission in this last submittal. So we've done that and it's been successful as well. Let's talk about meeting those timelines. As I just described, we've met the timeline to complete the TRRC. Fiber backbone, that's done. That 3 years is coming to an end. We've worked with Vadi, met those timelines. The Connect America Fund, which is an FCC program, we're meeting those timelines. USDA Reconnect, we're working in Halifax and in southern Brunswick counties. We're on time with those folks as well. CARES projects are up to date. We're where we're supposed to be with them. And the thing that remains with CARES right now is hooking up additional folks who come in and say, oh, that runs by my house. Yeah, I want it. So we're hooking up additional homes in those CARES areas as we go. Is it cost effective? Yes. $69.95 a month for 50 megabits per second is the low end, is the beginner starter package. As we talked about, you can stream those 5 TVs for that. It gives you what you need. We're most proud that we're able to do that with there no data usage caps, okay? So there's no cap on how much you can use, how long you can use it. It's unlimited, okay? So whatever a family needs, they can use. You don't get into the middle of a month and say, oh my goodness, we've run out of data, we've got to change plans. That doesn't happen, okay? No data caps. No throttling. So a lot of times you'll have organizations that will say, well, once you've used all you really need to use, and they slow you down. There's no throttling. We have standard equipment that comes free with that monthly subscription rate, 24-hour USA-based technical service, and it comes from a company that our community is used to. We've been here for 80 years now. All right, let's talk about the assets and capabilities to perform in regards to this work. So we're proving performance, okay, and Power has built and continues to build fiber to the premises. We're going across those counties that we talked about, serving folks in 7 counties. We're offering the best of the best. Fiber is future-proof. We're utilizing existing infrastructure. So we're using existing right-of-way. We're using existing NBC fiber. We'll utilize Dominion fiber as we work with those. We have existing central offices. We have existing substations. We have existing construction equipment and construction management resources. So we're using what we have. Additionally, this stuff is all shovel ready. So the project represents an expansion of our existing network. So we're able to extend what's already there. So that's a big deal, as you all know. So Empower checks off every box of success and accomplishes every goal in implementing this coverage plan across Southside Virginia. So we are a vested interest in the community, in our counties. We have local leadership, and they represent the folks that we serve. So there's a board that sits and operates and runs Empower just like you do here, and they're from our communities. Of course, we're a proven provider with over 80 years of experience. Of course, one of the things we've heard through our communities is, well, okay, it's there. Am I in it? Is it coming to my house? Well, folks, here's a map, and this map shows up on our empowermec.net page, and folks can go in and check to see if they are in the project area. So there are 14,600 addresses that are there. Folks can go in, key in their name, and see if it's available to them. So this is up today, as we speak, on the Empower website, okay? So it's available for folks to go out there and take a look at. Well, how are things going, you might ask? How are we doing? Last month, we connected 117 folks, and actually in December, and then in January, we connected 114 more people to this fiber network. Now, interesting, here in Mecklenburg County, you see there are 400 applications in Americamps, River Ridge, and Tanglewood. And that will be coming online this spring. And that will be based on a cable system technology. And we'll feed that cable system with fiber and just use those coax lines to distribute through those communities. So there are 400 applications, nearly half, 40% of those applications of that 988 coming from that area here in Mecklenburg County. Folks, as they hear about what's available, they're signing up for it. So that we're continuing to hook folks up. So, and you can see where those applications are across the whole system. And you can see a number of those are, of course, here in Mecklenburg County. And of course, a lot of those are in that Bracey area through Americamps, River Ridge, and Tanglewood. Well, we, of course, are proud to serve Southside Virginia. Just like you all are, we are indebted to our membership, our customers, our communities. Our website is available at empowermec.net, and you folks can view this, you guys as well. So, staying the course, empowering Mecklenburg, we create a partnership of continuing success. So we thank you guys once again for your support, and look forward to moving further into this venture. Now, a couple of questions I think I've covered, but just to make sure, in the project, the next steps are SPDC will sign the agreement with Vadi, DHCD, and we think that'll be done in about the next 60 days, probably sooner, but they're working on that. And before that, just prior to that, and as we speak now, we're working with our owner's engineer to lay out the zones. There's about 30 zones that are out there across Mecklenburg County and the remaining project area. We'll set up 30 zones, and then we'll begin to set out a timeline for those. The next step will be to go out and set up an RFP for contractors to come in and bid on those 30 zones. So that's what we're working with the owner's engineer as we speak at this time. We will work in each county concurrently, so we'll be working in every one of our counties. It won't be we finish one and move to the other. We'll be in each community at the same time. Okay, Mr. Chairman, I turn it back over to you. Might there be any questions?
Okay, board, there's a question? Mr. Jones?
You gave the pricing for different,
Yes, sir.
bases on up to lightning speed. How about the telephone? How much additional would that be?
Our telephone is $30 a month, and that comes with a host of free features that are included in that price. So it comes with long distance, it comes with call waiting, caller ID, comes with voicemail. So that is it is a digital technology as well. So it's voice over IP, so it's clear, and again it does the job quite well. So that is $30 for a residential account. It's $34.95 for a business line.
And while you're doing this, and in your installation, if there becomes a malfunction, do you have a way while you're installing your lines and so forth that you can check what the problem area is?
Yeah. Mr. Hargrove, one of the assets or advantages of this system is we actually, if somebody's having problems, they can call us up. We can actually go directly to that device to see what's going on, see how it's functioning, see how it's operating. We've had a few folks that had some difficulties with it because, nowadays we want to work wirelessly within our home, and the router does that. But as you have so many wireless devices competing for different channels in that wireless area, we've had folks that said, hey, there are a couple that I know of that they said it just isn't working. Our team was able to go in remotely and look to see which devices were online and what channels they were on, and we were able to help them identify what was going on and to fix it. So yes, sir, we're able to remotely look at what's going on. Now, I'm sorry, Wayne, go ahead.
Go ahead.
One of the interesting things is when we hook it up, the guys look at the amount of light that's going to the router, which we call an ONT, an optical network terminal, and you can actually see how much light's there. So they know when they hook it up that it's going to work appropriately. one of the things that we have seen, and we would encourage folks to take a look at this, I'll have to say, I've got a computer, this one right here, that they bought me a new one, but I can't switch over to it because I know how all this stuff works. Well, it's a little older, and it doesn't have the fastest speeds on everything. So when I connect to the internet, it's a little slow. So we're finding that folks need to say, well, it has been a while since I bought a computer, and my Wi-Fi card's not as fast as it could be. So we've had some folks that say, I bought a new computer and it went from fast to lightning fast. So, we're having to work with our membership, with our customers to say, hey, look, there's some things that you can do to help speed up and help utilize all the tools that you have. So,
Yeah, Connor?
Couple quick things. I
Yes,
think
sir.
also y'all have an MOU with Dominion.
We do.
And Southside to cover those areas. But what kind of programs do you have for low-income people? I know that's one of the concerns of some of the board members is affordability of
Right.
internet
So-
through the service. So could you tell that, please?
one of the things that we have for low income is we work with the FCC. They have the emergency broadband services, so we work with the FCC to do that. So that helps minimize that cost there. So that's one of the things that we do. One of the things that we have recognized is a lot of times this service allows people to combine other services that they have together. Like a lot of us have TV subscriptions that we have at home. You're able to save some money by streaming TV over the internet. It's not just internet at this point, it's broadband. So there's a big pipe that comes into the house, and it actually does become a digital pipe. And folks can actually watch TV. They can save monies on that. They're actually free services that folks can stream TV on. And of course, for those of you who have kids or grandkids, they don't necessarily watch TV anyway. They're watching YouTube or something like that. So it provides extra things to the family to help save money in that regard.
I have a question. What do I do while I'm waiting for the broadband? Do I notify you that the application or wait till it come into my community to let you know I do want it?
Well, Mr. Spain, one of the things that we're doing at this point is we have the Empower website, empowermec.net. There's actually the map that talks to you about if you're in the Vadi application. Then there's another map that's available there where folks can go in and check availability. So once viewing both of those maps to see if you're included, we need you to go and register your interest. So we can register your interest to know that you're interested in the service, and we'll keep you updated with where we are regarding progress. Once we get to an area, once we're beginning to build out, we actually send out notifications to that community, to those folks that we're going by and say, hey, it's coming to you, it's available to you, please sign up. So at this point, go register your interest, and that will help us. One of the things we'll do is we'll take a look at those folks who have signed up and are more interested, and that helps us gauge where some of those next steps, even within those larger 30 zones, we need to know where folks are interested. So that'll help us do that.
Okay.
David, my district, District 8, of course, we up the northern part of the county, we up next to Mecklenburg, Charlotte County. We don't have a lot of dots up there yet, but as far as a time frame, and I know you said we could go look it up there on the thing, but you got a kind of a time frame when, because I got a feeling we're not the most populated area. So is that what you're looking for now, still population to go to? I noticed, on the eastern end of the county, where the population is a whole lot more dots and all, but do you have a rough idea when, because people always call and say, when are we going to have broadband? I mean, is it 2 years or 3 years or probably before I know certain areas and certain roads we'll have it quicker, but when will you cover that bigger residential area?
We'll build out, Mr. Brinkley, we'll build out basically from that backbone and those existing areas where we have fiber. We'll begin there, and then we'll build out further. We'll tie that system, that network together in those different areas. So that backbone actually it crosses Mecklenburg County, and it actually crosses going into Charlotte County. Of course, Charlotte County being a part of this, it helps that part of the county to extend out further. Our objective is in this plan is to work on a 3-year construction period. So that's what we're working here. Now, There are some folks who today are already served by somebody else, and that is something we need to mention. If you're not on either of those maps, then you are served, citizens are served, residents are served by either their existing provider. They have indicated to the FCC, they've indicated to the Department of Housing and Community Development, hey, we've got the speeds that are necessary. So if folks are not on those maps, then they are already served by an existing provider that meets that speed, or somebody else has received responsibility to serve those folks. So you do have those two cases. Now, one of the things that the reason this is called a universal service plan is because you think about it, that fiber is being placed all across the county. So it provides that backbone. If somebody's not on there, if they were not on the map, it's going to get fiber close to their home. And it's providing the facilities to get them within a reach of that. So if folks that are not on there, there'll be fiber coming, and it's coming through their community. And those folks that are not included will begin to devise a way to get to those folks.
Piggybacking on what Dave was saying, that probably with this Vadi grant, in most of these communities, you're looking at about a 70% coverage. You've got some CAF2 areas that have already been receiving money. Those companies are. They are not available to be under the this Vadi grant. You've got some RDOF areas where different providers are supposed to be putting those hookups in. Those also, we couldn't go up against those and compete. So you're only looking at, as part of this project, 70% being covered. We're going to have to go back after that, see if those providers have then provided that service over this past 3 years as they're required to. If not, then we'll have to go back at that time, I think, across the state. And Vadi is going to go back and probably go and say, okay, now we're going to open up these areas. Because you've had it, for example, CAF2, this is the third year. And by year 6, they're supposed to have it installed.
Yes, sir.
Or have the plan for when it's going to be installed. Some of these we've not heard from at this time. So also as part of this Vadi grant, we had some providers who said, okay, now we're going to go in and do this within the 3-year period. They've signed contracts or MOUs with the counties with regarding that. And so we're seeing some of that also. But hopefully, as at the end of 3 years from when we signed the grant, not from when it was awarded, but from when we signed it, which will be sometime this spring, 70% of the county will be done. That's not 100%, but that's as fast and as much as we can do at one time. If that answers your question.
Right. Well, do we have a tool so that we can go and look and see who other providers have these certain areas that we won't be, maybe Empower's not entitled to go into right now?
David, folks can actually need to first check with their existing provider. If that may be CenturyLink, it may be Verizon, it may be Comcast. Folks in some areas actually do have Comcast that passes by, and Comcast Xfinity. There are some facilities there. They can check with those folks to see if services are available for them. River Street Networks is actually someone who received CAF funding in the area. If they're not in any of these areas, then they should check to see if they might be in River Street Networks CAF areas as well. But at this point in time, there's no one map for other providers that bring it together. But
I imagine the state over time will probably do that based upon what's being done with these grants across the state. Because the state was actually saying on our call, they were going to develop the map for this grant, but now since Mecklenburg Electric has it, they're not going to. There's no one map, though, that shows it all. It's a conglomeration depending upon which program it went out under, which provider said they're covering it, et cetera. So it's a mixed bag at best, Mr. Brackett. I wish I could give you, you just go to this site and figure it out. It doesn't work that way.
So if I'm a Mecklenburg Electric customer, that don't necessarily mean that I would be under.
It does not. So,
Right. Okay.
but folks can actually go check that map and they can see the areas that Empower received. Now, one of the other things that I know Wayne is aware of, there is a state broadband map that's out there, and it's actually sponsored by Vadi, DHCD, and Virginia Tech. And you can go out there and check to see, based on the map, who is the provider in that area. Right. That helps a little bit, but we have to step at multiple locations just to make sure. But first step is that there's two maps. The first map is for Vadi. The second map is for those existing projects that we have, like the CARES project and the Vadi projects that we've worked with you guys on, and the Tobacco Commission. If they're still they're in those areas, services are available to them. So.
And one other thing, there's a difference between underserved and unserved. If one person in that census block has broadband services, that's considered served. Now, the other 50 homes might not have it. So that's an issue we've had across the state when the state says, look, we've got this much done. That's why I said 70% is not going to be covered. Because the state is looking at spots and saying, okay, your census block is covered. Well, only 5 of the 50 homes in there have it. But that's what they're saying is covered because it is available there to some of the people. They're going to go back and redo it, trying to figure out home by home to figure out what is actually served and not. So when the state says, the governor goes up, whoever the governor is, and says, we have 50% of the state covered. That's not exactly true. Because you might have 10% of the homes in some blocks, and they're considered that covered. The other 90% are not. So that's why I've said it's not a perfect science. I think you would agree with that, David. Till we can get farther along down this system, will we ever know closer to what that true figure is?
All right, thank you, Dave.
Yes. Now, one of the other things that Mr. Carter just mentioned, we talk about how served and underserved areas. This last Vadi grant, it actually had a minimum requirement of 25 megabits down and 3 up. And they also were responsible for allocating some funding from the state level for some federal monies that actually had a requirement of 100 megabits down and 20 megabits up. So one of the things we're seeing, as we just saw there, speed requirements are changing. So folks that now may have internet at 25.3, as time moves on and as everybody says, well, hey, I've got to have more devices in my house, that service becomes antiquated as we have more requirements for data. So we've seen the speeds change. The requirements of the speeds are changing. They're going up. And the advantage of this fiber fed network is that it goes right along with it. So it is a future-proof deal. So. Yes, sir.
So I'm thinking that if you've got 30 zones and you're going to put them out for bid.
Yes, sir.
Until those bids come in and you accept the bid, you really don't have a forward projection of which areas are going to be served first.
We do not at this point, Mr. Jones. We don't have those dates.
Right. If you put those bids out, when will they go out?
We actually expect those bids will go out in about the next 60 days. So we expect that in June we'd be able to start doing some construction, that we would start at that point in time. Now, do keep in mind that there are other areas that we're working in. Now, one of the things when we start talking about Cox Road a little bit, a CARES area was set up on Cox Road. So we're continuing to hook up folks on Cox Road. We're hooking folks up along that backbone that we set up through the Tobacco Commission 3 years ago. So we'll continue that existing stuff. We'll also be hooking up the folks in that Bracey area that we talked about. Well, we call it our ART project, Americamps, River Ridge, and Tanglewood. So we're going to continue to build to those folks. Next step will be to award that RFP to those folks. And sometime between now and that June timeframe, we're expecting sometime perhaps in May, we'll be able to release a timeline that shows when we'll be and when we expect to be at each of those zones.
Okay.
Because I know folks are excited and interested in knowing when. So that is a key part of our project and communications plan.
Any other question? If not, we thank Mr. Lipscomb for an update. A lot of information was shared with us. I know this paper will reiterate a lot of this information, and we thank you for the work that you do, because if it were not for Mecklenburg Electric, a lot of the county would have been in the dog line a long time ago. And you mentioned $154 million, and you competing with the school system, about $153 million, so a lot of money is being put in the county and used. So soon we're going to be competing with the big cities with our broadband, our school system. So again, thank you for the work that you do.
One of the things, Mr. Spain, that we hope is, our kids, our children, our families, our businesses deserve the same opportunities that businesses in more urban areas deserve. So I want to tell you that we appreciate the county staff working with us. Your team's done a great job. The SPCD has done a great job in helping us to work through and navigate through these deals. Now, one of the things that I know, we got, especially, this was an aggressive timeline for submitting these applications. And, the county and PDC both worked tremendously. So we appreciate that. It's $154 million is a big project. So thank you so much for your support. Should any of you have questions, Wayne and I have talked quite a lot. He can certainly give you a lot of the first line questions, but if you need to know any more, feel free to reach out. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Next, we will have Dominion Transmission Line Project, Greg Matthew.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Wayne. My name is Ernest Green. I'm External Affairs Manager for Dominion Energy, and Greg has allowed me to steal a few minutes of his time to share some information with you. And what I wanted to say real quick is just tell you that how the energy industry has changed over the years and what's going on. And it was a perfect segue from Mr. Lipscomb's speech a few minutes ago that homes have more than one TV and one computer. So it's a demand for electricity. And when you look at the environmental aspect of this, we're shutting down coal-fired power plants because of greenhouse gases in the environment. So we still have to serve our customers, and we're coming up with ways to do that. And what's happening is when you've heard a lot about solar, you've heard a lot about, I think, biomass and wind, the offshore wind that we're involved in, different ways to come up with that energy to serve our customers. And one of the things that's happening right now, the demand for energy and getting that here, and that's why Greg is going to talk to you today about the transmission line. When you talk about Microsoft for the need for energy in the county, and I saw on your agenda, you're going to talk about economic development. When you're talking about economic development and bringing businesses into your county, they're going to ask, what is the electric supply there? Is there redundant energy, or what exactly is going on? And so everything that Dominion is working on these days is in the process of bringing electricity to the county, and that to that level that you need to power your homes, to power your new schools, and to power economic development. And so what we're here today, and I loved what Mr. Lipscomb talked about, it is about partnership. We can't come in and do anything without partnership with the county, and the county saying, this is what we allow you to do and what we can do. We come in and say, this is what we need, and then the county lets us know what we can actually do. And I laughed this morning. I often apologize because I call Wayne all the time because we have so much activity going on in the county, and I call Wayne all the time. But I didn't realize how often I call Wayne until I walked in this morning and I asked this young lady, can you tell me where the restrooms are? And she said, is that you, Mr. Green? so I call Wayne a lot. I apologize. But yeah, just wanted to step in for a few minutes and just say that I appreciate the working relationship that I do have with Wayne, and I look forward to the relationship. You're going to see me more often because we do have projects that we're going to propose. Today is actually the first step in just sharing with you the transmission process. We come before you, we lay this out, but we still have to go to the SCC, and Greg is going to lay all that out for you. But that partnership that we have with the county and greater partnership going forward so that we can continue to provide electricity to the citizens of Mecklenburg County, the future business development and school development that you have coming to the county. So I want to say thank you for having us here this morning and appreciate the opportunity to speak to you. And this is Greg Matthew that's going to talk to you about transmission line projects going forward with Dominion Energy. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Need to turn the mic up.
Good morning, how are you?
Morning.
My name is Greg Matthew. I'm obviously with Dominion Energy. I'm in our communications group supporting our electric transmission business. This being somewhat of a team sport, as everybody has mentioned earlier today, we can't do anything without a bunch of folks going forward in the same direction. So I have a bunch of colleagues here that will help with any of your questions if I can't get to them. But it's certainly it's an exciting time for Virginia, and it's certainly an exciting time here in Mecklenburg County. We have, what we heard, exciting developments across for broadband, for solar, and economic prosperity and development here in Mecklenburg with the ever expansion of data centers. I know a lot of this can cause change, and we will be talking about change through this presentation as well. And so I understand that, and we recognize that can be hard as we go along. But please be assured that we are here in your public's interest. We are here to do things right. This starts today with this sort of conversation that we're having. This by no means is the end of the process. This is just the beginning. What we're going to be talking about today, although I won't ask you to skip to the last slide of the presentation, and I'll start from the back. But if you do want to skip forward, you can skip to the middle, where we'll be investing north of $300 million in your county on these projects. That is investment that will help you and your constituents in their economic vitality moving forward. This is for the benefit of all of us. Let's start with our North Star. Of course, safety is paramount. Every day, our linemen, our employees undertake these values in every action, every day, and every month that they go to work. It obviously starts with safety because we are in a dangerous business, but I want to focus today on One Dominion, which is our term for teamwork. And we talked about partnership, but teamwork is not just an internal game. It is also external partnerships. We truly believe that when we're going forward on infrastructure projects, that we do so being partners with the community. We often say that we have to value what the community values. We understand that change can come with new infrastructure projects, but if we're doing it in a way that meets their expectations, hopefully we can all be going in the same direction. So not taking for granted where things may stand with your knowledge on the electric system, let me start with this basic graphic. We have power generation, of course, as Ernest said, that is ever changing with solar and wind and moving towards a greener future for all of us. Then we have what carries that generation to long distances, which is our transmission lines. We enter into substations where that power gets stepped down into more manageable voltage levels, where it ultimately goes into our homes and businesses. Of course, I can't go but 30 seconds but saying that partnership with MEC is also important, as both Dominion and MEC serve your community. There is limits, though, to these power lines, and I'll talk about a little bit of the reliability criteria that we go through, but it's important to know these sort of top-line reliability criteria mandates, because as we start, especially talking about a growing community, and especially around data centers, you start to reach thresholds pretty quickly. This is what we call block load additions, meaning it is not house-by-house growth over many years. Data centers are power-intensive buildings, anywhere between 30 to 60 megawatts a building now. And that is all densely populated in one very concentrated area. And our transmission lines, for very good reason, have load limits to protect against cascading issues. It also prevents system interruptions. And so what we'll be talking about probably starting now and for years to come is what is called the 300 megawatt limit. That's important because both lines and substations have that sort of ceiling of reliability criteria. When we reach those ceilings, that means just more infrastructure needs to be built to meet the demands. Okay. And then the more transmission lines and the more substations, the more distribution can also interconnect and have a more robust way of networking the distribution lines that ultimately provide the reliability to our homes and businesses. So for instance, if a car hits a utility pole, our distribution network has more flexibility to traffic that power versus people are out and then we have to fix that power line before power can be restored. I should have said, if you guys have questions along the way, I don't mind answering those along the way. I'll be remiss to say that we're not a heavily regulated business. We obviously take our obligation to serve very seriously, and we also just do it plainly because our customers deserve a service. But we also are held to these regulatory bodies, both at the federal level with mandatory reliability criteria, which is what we were just talking about with maintaining the 300 megawatt rule, all the way down to the State Corporation Commission, and then of course some jurisdictional oversight by the counties and cities as well, namely when we talk about this substation siting and permitting. So first, really, how are infrastructure projects born? Well, in our world, there's kind of three primary drivers. They're all not mutually exclusive. They all kind of interplay against one another. But generally, there's a driving force when it comes to new infrastructure. Economic growth, because the asset is old, or we have to maintain reliability criteria. In this instance, we're here really talking about economic growth. Mecklenburg is seeing growth, especially with Microsoft and data center ever expanding. And so we're here because that driver. We have an obligation to serve, and we need to figure out, as load comes into our service area, how to serve that load. And we've seen growth already, right? So Boynton has seen growth, but that is expanding across the county. And so here, this is a map of kind of the system with the triangles or substations and the lines or various voltages. And you can see that the Boynton area has been certainly growing, but now it's expanding. And we're here, and we do have the luxury here to talk about a more broader approach to Mecklenburg versus project by project. Although we'll be tackling this project by project, we want to give you today a sense of this kind of universal plan that we're going to embark on over the next couple of years to serve this ever-expanding load growth. But just know that it's not a static industry. If load continues to grow, we will probably be back talking about more projects.
One question. I know you have for Chase City that the future growth that you anticipate with that new load center for Chase City?
Yes, that's correct. So there's three, as I said, block loads, so data center growth, which is necessitating this new infrastructure. And so there's three projects, really three areas, which we'll be covering here in just a second. But all of these are kind of going on concurrently right now that we're planning for.
Okay.
And so just let's understand voltage for just a quick second. And it's important, again, not necessarily because your average home is served by transmission level voltage, but it's important as we're talking about economic development and certainly data center development. The backbone or major trunk line of our system across the Commonwealth is our 500 kV system. Think of that as your major roadways, 85, 95, that sort of thing. That is to move a large amount of electricity someplace. Then the next level is 230 kV. Really, when we're talking about data center growth, and a lot of it, you're looking at that voltage just because we know, for instance, if I started back at the 115 kV level, development grows, and a 2-lane road sometimes outserves its purpose for traffic, and you need a 4-lane road or a 6-lane road. And so our 230 system really serves that sort of big load additions of data centers. It's just a better way of serving that sort of amount. And so here we're talking about 3 projects, all served at the 230 kV transmission voltage. We have what we're calling the South Hill projects. Then we have Butler Farm, which is in Cheese City, and the Jeffress project in Southside. So let's take these one at a time. We don't have, I should have said, we don't have all of this planned down. We do know that we have 3 projects. We do know the scope of those projects, but when it comes to the routing and siting of exactly the transmission line, we have not gotten there yet. So be mindful that when we talk to the communities in these areas, we'll be going there to solicit advice and to bring forward our desktop analysis of what we think, based on just desktop review, is possible. But then it goes through a lot of refinement. So I want to give you the basics today, but know that the conversation on each one of these projects is going to move forward in a deliberate way. So what we're talking about, the South Hill projects, is given the load growth in the area, it's going to necessitate three substations in the South Hill La Crosse area. All those substations is what we're calling networked, and they'll have a transmission line in between all 3 of those. But to get the major power over to that area, we'll need 2 new transmission lines. We have a northern solution, which includes a new substation to the north, and then we'll bring those 2 transmission lines down to the South Hill area. Or we can use an existing transmission line from an existing substation from the east and bring 2 new transmission lines from the east. I should say, though, that although these are 2 solutions initially, just given what we're anticipating with the load growth in that La Crosse South Hill area, we probably will have to build both solutions at some time. Again, making sure that we're under that 300 megawatt rule. Once you cross that threshold, it means a new transmission line as a new source for contingency. So at some point, I would say probably both of these will be needed at some point. Which one we start with is what we're going to be undergoing this year to figure out. And the right-of-way needs are about 120 feet wide for those transmission lines. What we'll do is put the transmission lines in a singular right-of-way corridor, and we'll try to route that to the 3 substations. For Butler Farm, this is a new substation just in the Chase City area. We'll have a single circuit transmission line come from Clover Power Station, or a substation there, which is in Halifax. We'll have to route through Charlotte County to get over to Mecklenburg, and then we'll proposing to build a new substation called Finneywood in northern Mecklenburg and route a single circuit transmission line down to Butler Farm as well. And again, given the load growth that we're anticipating in the Butler Farm area, that's our name for it, we may need a 3rd transmission line in addition to the 2 new ones as well. When that happens, is yet to be seen. Yes, sir.
Isn't it on the table that the Clover plant will eventually be closing?
Yes. But there's a substation there, and that has it's a big hub of where a lot of transmission lines are. So it's not that we need the transmission line to come from the power station. It's just a major hub of where we can draw from the substation that's there.
Okay. For example, over at Clarksville, where they're closing down the plant, they're going to leave the switch yard. So at all these places, they're looking at leaving switch yards, is my understanding.
In most of the plant retirements, we are leaving the substation or rearranging it so that the interject is not coming from that station, but from the system.
Well, would you keep those like in standby mode? I mean, you hear about the California rollouts on electricity and stuff. I always think that at some point you might need that coal backup. Solar is just not going to give you so much.
So in the transition that we're making by 2045, all the coal in that plant will be retired. What we're doing for reliability knowing that solar and wind are not, the sun's not always shining and the wind's not always blowing, is we're using gas plants to fill in that reliability need. And then, of course, we have, as a Commonwealth, about 40% of our power coming from nuclear facilities.
Okay.
And so nuclear and gas remain part of the equation, even though we're moving towards what's called net zero by 2045. So most of, if not all, the power will come from nuclear and renewables, with those gas plants providing reliability backstops. Okay. And then for Jeffress is a two-parter, because we're currently talking with the community right now about a bridging power from our 115 kV line. So if you see that red line coming down, that's an existing transmission line at 115 kilovolts. And just given the development of that area, we'll need to get them serviced sooner than the other two projects. And the way we feel that we can do that to meet those needs now is by extending a bridging power at the lower voltage level. But the ultimate permanent solution has to be at the 230 level, and we're gonna bring that down from the Finneywood area, or the new Finneywood substation.
Greg, I think one of the things y'all need to realize is most all of our transmission lines in Mecklenburg are 115s.
That's correct.
Correct? So like, for example, the one going from Shea City down to the dam was twin 115s that had been in for, so I guess since the project was built in the 50s. Those have been put on new poles, and now they're gonna put a 230 beside that to serve the Boynton area campuses. So y'all are trying to use where possible your existing right-of-way.
That's correct. That's correct. In these projects, most will be new right-of-way. Even if you parallel existing transmission lines, the right-of-way is just not wide enough for safety and reliability. So these will all be new right-of-way projects. Whether or not we can get some economies by paralleling existing, or a lot of it will be new. But I guess the growth in Mecklenburg really is just like the road system is you start down at the two-lane roads, and then eventually growth necessitates building to the out to the 230s. The good thing about Mecklenburg is that we have that 500 line, which is green just to the north. So substations can really, especially for data centers, new substations along that 500 corridor will be helpful for the reliability of this issue, of this county, as that development continues. So I said new right-of-way, and so I just want to make sure that folks understand the routing considerations when it comes to developing new right-of-way. First and foremost, there's two things. One, we don't look to go and create issues and impacts where there don't need to be. Second of all, the State Corporation Commission asks us to reasonably minimize impacts. So not only do we not wake up every morning trying to figure out what issues to cause folks, but we're also bound by finding the routes that limit impacts. We're also doing that in a way that meets, like I said, communities' expectations. And so some of these foundational considerations, for instance, looking at our existing rights-of-way, can we upgrade existing lines to higher voltage lines? Or can we use the right-of-way and maximize how many lines do we put already in those rights? If that doesn't equate to solving what the project needs are, then we have to look towards new right-of-way. We want to make sure that we're respecting the land use of the community. If it's a farming parcel, where's their irrigation? How do they use it? Can we stay to the one side versus the other? If it's a smaller property, are there roadways or railways that we can parallel versus going through a smaller parcel? So we're looking at parcel and the use of the land and what folks can help us route. We're also making sure that we're looking at the environmental concerns, so crossing rivers or wetlands, and making sure that we have a better understanding of the cultural and historic areas in the county, whether that's registered assets through the Department of Historical Resources or talking to the locals and understanding unregistered or undocumented history. And this just kind of unpacks things a little bit more, but making sure that we're looking at things like environmental justice considerations or Native American considerations, really going down to the depths and details of what's in that community so that we understand where the routing is. That may not mean that we can avoid something, but hopefully we're going in there with with a conversation with the public. We understand their concerns and how we may be able to mitigate those impacts. Again, with new right-of-way, you cannot avoid impacts. It is new, it's new infrastructure. We understand that, but we have to limit what those impacts may be. So from a process perspective, we identified a need. Our electrical planners come up with a solution. We work with the community to propose what that new right-of-way looks like. And then we go through the regulatory process. From a permitting perspective, the main regulatory body for new right-of-way at the 230 kV is the State Corporation Commission. I'll unpack that here in a second. We also, when we cross wetlands or the waters of the U.S., we have to get an Army Corps permit as well as a couple other agency permits. From a local permitting perspective, the substations are under county purview. Most, if not all of these substations are being permitted along with the data center parcel. But for something like the Finneywood substation, which is in Mecklenburg, that would be under the county's purview. So we'd be back in front of you for a site plan and all the necessary permits from the county on that substation. But the line itself has jurisdiction from the State Corporation Commission. State Corporation Commission process is anywhere from 12 to 24 months. We'll just call it 18 months for short. But it does start with a public comment period that lasts a significant amount of time based on the SEC's procedural schedule. Then we'll go through local hearings before they go through a process of rendering a decision. In that, we have to provide a lot of evidence on not just what the need of the project is, but then, of course, with routing, that we are reasonably minimizing impacts. And so we'll enumerate what those impacts are and how we've come to our routing decisions. The State Corporation Commission asks us to put forward a proposed route for their consideration, plus alternatives, so they have a basis of comparison. And I think from all of us kind of going to do work on your house, you want 3 quotes, right? You want a basis of comparison. So we will put forward a proposed route, but we will have alternatives to make sure that we're making the right decisions and what the pros and cons are for each routing consideration. And then our public engagement process starts in earnest now. As I said with Jeffries, we are talking to property owners right now because we have to permit and build that bridging power. But we want to make sure that we're in alignment with community's expectations. We want to make sure that we are seeking compromise and that we are valuing what the community values. The considerations maybe on the South Hill projects may be very different than the considerations from those around Chase City. So we're going to be talking individually based on those project locations to those people impacted by those projects specifically. But knowing that the county, and I can appreciate this, the county wants to see a holistic plan, so this is what the plan is for the next couple of years. As part of our engagement process, we have a new online tool, what we call GeoVoice. I've been starting using this in the last year or so, but it's an online tool that helps us gain and engage the public through comments. This tool will be populated by the routes as they evolve. Somebody can take their phone or their desktop in their living room and register and enter in comments based on a location that's important to them. So if they're walking in their neighborhood and say, I read a book with my daughter on this corner, I want to make sure that you know about that. And this tree is really important to me. So I want to make sure that, so it's geo-targeted based on where that phone is. Or they can be sitting in a living room and say, my family is buried in this cemetery. Please consider that. That's important to me. Okay, so this comes back all to us, and we're able to see where those comments are. We're able to respond back to those comments, or when we go into our public meetings, making sure that we're taking those routing considerations and already maybe making accommodations to those comments, or have a rationale why we can't accommodate that comment. And then, of course, photo simulations and what the project will look like will be posted here as a repository as well. And then just like with everything, we do believe that this investment of north of $300 million into your community will have long-lasting benefits. Not only is it a time and a place that we're concentrating in Mecklenburg because of the economic development successes that you have had, but it will boast hopefully future economic development opportunities going forward. The electrical system is the backbone, as we've said, of our daily lives now, and especially the data center lives, which is slowly becoming the backbone of our lives as well. And so as these projects unfold and come to fruition, I think that will be just as important to Mecklenburg as anything else. From a timing perspective, they are all happening concurrently, hopefully all wrapping up by the 2025-2026 timeframe. You guys have this in front of you, but the big components of the plan are starting right now. So public engagement starts, today, moving forward, and then we go through the submission process later this year to the State Corporation Commission, and hopefully start construction in the 24-25 timeframe. Jeffries is just a little bit different, of course, because we have that bridging power project that will have to start much sooner than this. But as we've said, we're already talking with a lot of the property owners down there based on that alignment. With that, happy to take any more questions and ask for help from my audience.
One thing, with regards to the Jeffers project, you all remember last year for that short-term bridging, they came forward to the Planning Commission to do a 2232 review with regards to being in compliance with that. It was found so, and you all didn't have an issue with it. So you'll have to be doing that with all of these transmission lines and substations as part of your local comp plan approval process. Planning Commission will be getting it, but just wanted to let y'all know that. That'll be concurrently as they're going forward with their appliances to the State Corporation Commission.
You may be able to answer this. I know Dominion is working more toward green energy and the solar projects and stuff, and I know you're already involved in some within the county. But I noticed and maybe you can answer this, but when we're talking about the transmission lines and all, we're talking about limited impact. And I think from my area district, we got a lot of transmission lines there and a lot of interest in solar farms in the area. We're a little slow getting the broadband, but we have no problem getting solar energy panels up in the area. But I ring. That's what my area worries about the most. The impact that it's had all the projects, so many of the projects in one area, in that area. So I kind of wanted to is how much we want to do our fair part. I think we got nothing against green energy, but how much does Southside solar farms and stuff do we need to kind of meet our needs? What Dominion needs for this area. I know of the big project going on in possibly in Charlotte County, Lunenburg thing. I mean, how much does this area need to have to kind of say we did our part?
A short answer is I think that is up to you all as the governing body. From Dominion's perspective, a solar facility down here helps our network across the Commonwealth. It is not regionalized, just like the wind farm out of Virginia Beach coastline is not just serving the east side of Virginia. It is helping all of us under the Commonwealth. So from a solar perspective, if it's being developed in Mecklenburg, the power doesn't stay in this region. Right. So I would just say that I think from a land use perspective, that's more probably y'all's decision versus Dominion's call. We're looking for available land, whether or not it meets, the solar specs, and then, is it close to a transmission line? How much of a new transmission line will be needed for the interconnect to the grid? That's the type of projects we're looking for.
You're looking for land throughout the state of Virginia, not just a certain area that makes sure we got enough here to supply Microsoft.
That's correct.
We're projects you got.
We're looking across the Commonwealth for available land, rooftop solar, obviously offshore wind, relicensing of our nuclear facilities. All of it is happening from a Commonwealth-wide perspective.
Right, okay, thank you.
Question to add to that is, so green energy, solar farms and wind energy, are they on schedule according to your anticipation of coming online or more sites being built?
Yes, that's not my total area of expertise. It's a different part of the company, but from everything that I've been told, the timeline of meeting net zero by 2045 is on schedule. And then it also has to be because that is by law, the Virginia Clean Economy Act dictates that we meet certain milestones along the way. But as far as where we stand in 2022, we have a lot of solar under development. We have our offshore wind, which is 2,600 megawatts of power being underdeveloped on time as well. So, yes.
Thank you. Do you consider putting electrical wire underground? Is there some more or less that you're considering?
From a transmission perspective, overhead and underground is a consideration. Underground is a lot more expensive.
Right.
It doesn't avoid impacts, but it is a consideration. So again, everything is under consideration right now,
Okay.
as
Thank
far
you.
as options go.
Any other comments or questions? If not, thank you, Mr.
Great,
Greg.
appreciate it.
A lot of information been shared for the public. I'm pretty sure you'll read about it later.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Okay. Make the Virginia Cooperative Extension update. 10 o'clock, we hadn't seen you in a while.
I guess it's good morning.
Say good morning.
A little while. Appreciate the opportunity to come before the board this morning. For the board members that I haven't met, my name is Taylor Clark. I'm the Virginia Cooperative Extension Agriculture Agent for Mecklenburg County, and I do serve a limited amount in Brunswick County for programming purposes. Just as an overview of the office here in Mecklenburg, we're pretty fortunate when you look around the state. We're pretty much fully staffed. We have as a agriculture agent, Jennifer Bowen, that's with me, is our 4-H agent, and we also have Amy Moore as our food and consumer sciences agent. She wasn't available to be with us this morning, had a prior meeting to attend to. And then we have a administrative assistant, Vicki Gordon, in the office that supports all our programs. And one unique thing that kind of gets missed a lot of time, we also have a USDA-funded food nutrition program assistance that is housed in the school system that does food and nutrition education in all the elementary schools in the county from the locality. I'm a little different in that